Hey, I'm Tyler Booker. You're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about. Singular history and tradition.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. This is so special.
Unmatched on-track intensity.
We gotta go.
And triple-header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Throw in a can't-miss concert, camping, and the legendary atmosphere of Talladega Boulevard. And you've got more than a race. You've got Talladega. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be back with you in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, after we had a great weekend in Madison, Wisconsin for Alabama's third win of the season. Now it's an open date for the Crimson Tide this Saturday, but we have a busy show coming up not just today, but also on Thursday at 2 o'clock Central, streaming live here on all CTSN social media platforms. We'll start our show by going through everything coming up, thanks to our friends at RJ Young, who also sponsors our headlines. RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us a smart board to go through everything in a real interactive way to begin the show. First things first, we'll take a look back to the win against the Wisconsin Badgers by taking a look at all the booth cam highlights of 42 points for the Crimson Tide. A lot to celebrate in Camp Randall Stadium. Then we'll hear from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, DeBoer, who met with the media yesterday, talking about not just the Wisconsin game, but how he wants Alabama to improve during this open date. Then we'll take a look back to last night's edition of Crimson Tide Rewind at Baumhower's in Vestavia Hills as Corey Reamer and I discuss the Wisconsin win and look ahead not just to the open date, but the Georgia Bulldogs coming up as well. Crimson Tide football team, a solid win against Wisconsin, led 21-3 at halftime and really put away the Badgers after that. 42-10 is the final score as the Crimson Tide earned that victory to improve to 3-0 on the season. Once again, Jalen Milroe, 2 rushing touchdowns, more passing touchdowns for Jalen. He was named the SEC Offensive Player of the Week for what has been a tremendous start to his junior campaign with the Crimson Tide. And I note as well that he is also the Reese Senior Bowl Offensive Player of the Week as well. So more honors keep pouring in for Jalen Milroe. Now this week, the open date is Alabama has not one but 2 open dates this year. And yes, it is a little earlier than we're used to, but Alabama will also be off coming up on November 2nd. But the Crimson Tide a chance to rest up and get ready for what is going to be a huge matchup against the Georgia Bulldogs. That's on September 28th. How about the soccer team? They're getting ready to start SEC play as they on Friday picked up a 4-0 victory against Louisiana Tech. And I mentioned SEC play is right around the corner. This Thursday, it's Alabama at Texas. Texas has been one of the Big 12 powers in the last few years. Now the Longhorns in the SEC, so an intriguing matchup on Thursday. Don't forget as well, on Sunday, Alabama will be back at home hosting Tennessee in a match at 6 o'clock at the Alabama Soccer Stadium. Meanwhile, the volleyball team, a really good trip to San Antonio, went 3-0 at the Roadrunner Classic, and now coming up this week, it is a huge matchup at home on Saturday against FSU, before that on Wednesday against North Alabama, so plenty of reasons to get down to historic Foster Auditorium. Plenty of reasons as well to come to Vector Security Champions Lane before the Georgia game, because Lauren Elena, she'll be along with David Lewis. She'll be performing before the game, and it should be a just tremendous fun atmosphere to get you ready for Alabama against Georgia. Don't forget Easton Corbin down the road as well for the Missouri game, but we have some tremendous acts coming up. Don't forget Vector Security Champions Lane. We'll have more details on everything coming up at Champions Lane next week, getting you ready for Alabama against Georgia. But right now, we want to take a look back to the win for the Crimson Tide against the Wisconsin Badgers. Here's a look at our Yay Alabama booth cam highlights from this past Saturday.
Connor Talty has been given the go-ahead from the official. Raises his right hand, now his left, strides towards the football, boots it away. It'll be a high, short kick from the pistol formation. They drag the tight end, they hand it off, and he's got nowhere to go. Stacked up, brought down, turned away by the Bama defense as Alabama will take over on downs. Empty set for Milroe, wide outs each side. Looking, firing towards the end zone, has a man, catch is made, touchdown Alabama. Ryan Williams beat his man.
Great protection up front as pressure was coming. The Bama offensive line picked it up.
They will hand it off. They'll run to the edge, and they've got a first down and a whole lot more. Is diving across the 25. Ball's on the deck. Loose football. Bama says they have it. We'll wait and see. They'll unpile foul. They say it's Bama football, and the Tide takes it away from the Badgers.
Fabian Brown, who came up with Malachi Moore, is actually the defender who went low. Ball definitely comes loose.
Tight end to the right side as well. Bernard going in motion, stops. He's basically another blocker, keeping himself Milroe, trying to get to the edge. He'll get to the 3. He'll get to the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama. Jalen Milroe from 3 yards out finds the end zone, and the Crimson Tide adds to its lead, 13-3 here in Madison.
You don't want a turnover, especially since you get the ball to start the second half. You have to be smart, so a lot of times you want to see what you do on first down.
As Milroe operates from the pistol. Drops back, looks to throw, fires it near side. He's got a man, Williams. Williams at midfield, at the 40, pushed out of bounds, inside Wisconsin's 30-yard line. Now on play action, looking, Milroe firing, left side, has a man open. It is caught. It is a touchdown, Alabama. Jeremy Bernard makes the grab, and the Crimson Tide pushes the lead to 20-3. Jalen will call the play. 2 wideouts right, 2 tight ends as well. It'll be Miller right up the gut. 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown. 34 yards. Jam Miller. Handoff. And not a lot of running room. Ball on the deck. Scramble for it. Bama says they have it. Let's see. They do. Crimson Tide with its second takeaway of the day. Boy, it'd be great to go ahead and punch this thing in and take the air out once more. Keeping it himself, Milroe cuts it back 5, 4-3, 2-1 touchdown. Jalen Milroe with the block from Jam Miller finds pay dirt, and Alabama pushes the lead to 34-10.
Chris Stewart, we will hear one of the top traditions in college football. They're about to jump around here at Camp Randall Stadium.
Look, man, I gotta tell you, I love the Bonanza sponsorship music, but it's topped only by this. Okay, Bama up big, 35-10. Jam Miller in the backfield to his right. They bring a man in motion. They'll fake it to him. Milroe downfield has a man. It is caught. Touchdown, Josh Cuevas. Alabama adding to its lead with 10:05 to go. Because the final 10 seconds are going to tick away. And Kalen DeBoer will rush across the field to meet Luke Fickle, shake his hand, and then find television, which wants to get his thoughts after the Tide rolls to an impressive 42-10 victory over Wisconsin here in Madison this afternoon.
Time is running out to secure your seat at NASCAR's biggest and baddest track. This October 4th through the 6th, the NASCAR playoffs will make their long-awaited return to Talladega Superspeedway, where the only thing bigger than the action on the track is the unrivaled fan experience. Don't miss out on a 3-race weekend full of playoff action that will have you on the edge of your seat all race long. Get your tickets now for Talladega Playoffs Event Weekend, October 4th through the 6th at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com. A lot to like about Alabama's win against Wisconsin, and it was Kalen DeBoer meeting on Monday with the media as he talked about everything that went well against the Badgers, what he wants to work on this week in the open date, plus a look ahead to the Georgia Bulldogs down the road. Here is Coach's Checklist with Coach DeBoer from Monday.
Good weekend for us. Everything's a first, right? Going on the road was our first time together with our staff, and but the guys did a nice job. I was happy obviously with the outcome, but also just the process and everything leading up to it and how the weekend went. So I thought they had a great balance of high energy, passion, emotion, but not being over emotional, and having a business-like mindset, and going and just knowing that it was going to be you versus great crowd there, and thought we did a nice job, just staying the course and made the plays, got the momentum on our side, especially there in the second quarter. The end of the half especially was a big deal. And I preach to the guys, keep playing, keep believing, and things will come your way. We're athletic enough, we got playmakers, and that's exactly what happened. Getting the stop, getting the field goal attempt, and flipping that around in 36 seconds or whatever it was, and getting some points and then doing it again. I thought that was a big piece of what we preach each and every day, and it happened. So Some things I know you heard from the coordinators, but I think not having the special teams coordinator up here, I think one highlight also is just how James Burnham's been doing kicking the football. He's a game changer. He can flip the field really on any kick. We saw that again on Saturday, and just proud of the way he goes about it. He's just quiet, but man, when he hits the ball, it makes some noise, and I mean that in a lot of ways. And so it's fun seeing him do his thing at a high level. So I thought, as far as how he handled the environment and the noise, I thought the offense did a nice job. Did a great job in the week of preparation. Felt like they were ready for whatever was thrown at them. I think the coordinators probably talked about some of the turnovers and takeaways and how we were better there. Thought we were better on third down, solid in the red zone again. So a lot of those main things showed up. We were taking the next step, I think, this last week in from where we were at against South Florida. So always things from an execution standpoint to improve on, areas where a bye week is important to continue to address, continue to build our depth, develop guys that we know we're going to need throughout the rest of the season. Yeah, with Graham, we've been scoring when we get in the red zone, getting the touchdowns. We haven't been in too many spots until Saturday, where we had the field goal, 46-ish, I think, 47, somewhere in there. I think he hit it good. I think in pregame we felt like maybe there was a little bit of a breeze coming right to left, probably over-calculated that, and it wasn't something where I felt like, where I know we all feel like he mishit it or anything. We just got to do a better job of understanding, the direction or how much it's going to influence the kick. So, yeah, and that's part of being a kicker, right? Pregame, during the game, towards the end. I mean, it's going to change, and so each side of the field changes. I know he expects himself to make that. We expect him to make it. He's been solid all fall camp. In regards to Ryan, with the injury to Cole Adams, that was one guy taken off of that area, and our depth, and so Bach's been back there doing a good job with his opportunities, and we need to continue to build that. And just getting Ryan one rep out there, I thought was good. He did a nice job. Looked very comfortable back there. There's some other guys, Jeremy Bernard could do that as well. He's been working on it, not just this year, but in the past. And so we just want to make sure guys continue to get that one rep, feel comfortable. And there's always little things that pop up that guys can learn from. And there were some learning opportunities even with Bach, just staying away from the football. On one of the punts that was rolling. We got to do a better job there, staying away. So everything is, again, new experience, especially for some of these younger guys, freshmen like Ryan and Bach, but they've done a really nice job so far. I'm trying to think through. I feel like there was, I think you get into the situations, probably the latter down at distances, third downs, when you see the pressures, and I think he did a really solid job. There was one time, and it wouldn't fall necessarily on his lap, where there was a little bit of miscommunication across the board, or it didn't happen as fluid as smooth as you would like. I think we got to the point where we needed to by the time the ball was snapped, but just everyone being on the same page, and that's not just the offensive line and him, that's everyone, and so we could have done a better job across the board. But in regards to Jalen, we are continuing to ask more and more of him as he gets more comfortable with what we do, and we know that is going to need to be the case. Where he has full reign right now. He knows what the expectations are and what we really prefer him to be doing with the checks, and he's been really solid, and that's going to be important for us going into SEC play. We know that for sure.
This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about.
Gets the win at Talladega.
Singular history and tradition. And triple-header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Well, each and every Monday, not only does Kalen DeBoer have a press conference, but we also have Crimson Tide Rewind presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health at Baumhower's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills, as I'm joined by former Crimson Tide linebacker Corey Reamer and a raucous crowd. Each and every Monday night, we have a lot of fun with the show, and we had a lot of fun discussing Alabama's win against the Wisconsin Badgers, and again, keeping an eye on what's moving forward, not only in SEC football, but with the Georgia Bulldogs coming to town on September 28th. The full edition of Crimson Tide Rewind from last night is available on demand on our YouTube page, plus the Alabama Insider podcast. But here's some of what you may have listened at last night. Here is Be Kind, Crimson Tide Rewind. And Corey Reamer, the Alabama Crimson Tide, 3-0.
3-0, baby. That was a good win. That was a game that we've all been looking forward to for a long time. Ever since they put that on the schedule, you got one of the all-time great helmet games. We always talk about those, the logos, the brands of these two programs. When they put this one on the schedule, Wisconsin was at a different place. And so, unfortunately, this game didn't live up to the billing that we thought it might in terms of being a good game from both sides. It was a great game from Alabama in the way that the outcome turned out. And I thought we looked great. It was an awesome environment. It was fun to be up at Camp Randall. It was one of those places that you want to check off the box, check that box to go see that stadium. And it lived up to the hype. It was a great environment. Those fans showed up. The streets were full. I mean, they were screaming. They were excited about Alabama being in town. I thought it was a phenomenal game, a big improvement from what we saw last week against South Florida, especially from this offense that, we saw a lot of big plays last week. Unfortunately, got handcuffed by some penalties, some drop balls, getting some touchdowns called back. And this one was a much cleaner game. It was exciting. Good win for Alabama to put this one going into the bye week and getting ready for Georgia in a couple weeks. 2 weeks a week from this Saturday.
Really looking forward to talking about not only the Wisconsin game, but Alabama's start to the season as we do get ready for the first of two open dates that Alabama will have coming up this year. It comes in week 4 this year, which again is a little bit awkward for us, or just different than what we're used to, but it comes really at a good time as well based on where this Crimson Tide football team is.
Yeah, we saw some guys that were out in the last couple of weeks, or obviously especially across the offensive line, and we got some injuries from this game, but having this week off in the beginning part of the season, the first quarter of the season, having a bye week to get some of these guys healthy, losing a couple guys in this past weekend against Wisconsin. It's always good to get some rest. It seems like it's early, but we've got a lot of good football left to play, and we got one of our easily our toughest test of the season coming up, and you want to be at full strength, and this is good for some of those guys that are probably at 70-80% to try to get back and get healthy as much as they possibly can before we take on, have Georgia in town. It's going to be a tough one. We saw that game against Kentucky this past Saturday, and that's just one of those weird games. It seems like Kentucky always seems to give Georgia some fits. They always play close games. I remember a couple of years ago they were in Athens, and it comes down to one of the last drives of the games. I think it was Mark Stoops. They go for the touchdown late in that game. They end up losing just by a few points, and a Kentucky team that got handled by South Carolina last week, and you turn around and you get Georgia, and they turn around and they were ready to go. It was gave Georgia all they wanted. But I imagine that Georgia's going to be ready for this Alabama game coming up. So this is a good bye week, good time for this team to kind of regroup. You got a whole new coaching staff, a lot of transfers, guys that are still trying to figure this system out, get comfortable with each other. A lot of things that you can go back and look at the tape and really make some corrections from these first 3 games. There's a lot of good tape that they can go back and check on and make some adjustments, what's working, what's not, kind of figure out what the identity of this team is.
As the Crimson Tide, again, really take care of business against Wisconsin, led 21-3 at halftime, added 21 more points, and again, the running game, the passing game, the balance was once again there for this Crimson Tide offense.
Yeah, but those 2 highlights right there were probably some of the biggest moments in the game. It's like you got 36 seconds left. Wisconsin trots out there. They're attempting a field goal, pushes it wide right. Now you've got Alabama with the ball with 36 seconds left to go. I'm not saying Coach Saban wouldn't have done the same thing, but a lot of times when you're up 14-3 and going into halftime on the road like that, you're trying to protect the football. You're coming back out second half. You're going to have possession. A lot of coaches will tell you, let's go knee on this and take it to halftime and come back out and score again. But you're able to go out there and double up and really extend that lead with two plays that I took up, 17 seconds of clock. It was two big plays, and that throw to Jeremy Bernard in the corner of the end zone was just absolutely incredible. You got some pretty good weapons for Jalen Milroe to go out there, but that tells you that Coach DeBoer has confidence in Jalen Milroe to go out there and make some plays. He's like two deep throws, make some phenomenal plays, get some points on the board. You go into halftime at 21-3. That shifts the whole momentum of the game. They could have easily made that field goal, kept it close, or had a chance, I think, to convert first down and retain the football and maybe put up some points going into halftime. And then they don't, miss the field goal, and now we score again, 21-3 at halftime. And I think the game was probably over with a lot earlier when you lose Tyler Van Dyke in the first drive. The guy was 5 for 5 coming, on his first drive, gets his knee injured, but that was probably the point in time where it was probably going to be tough for Wisconsin to compete with the backup quarterback, who he wasn't bad at all. He made some plays, but it's just not the same. And so I thought that moment right there shows you some differences in what we've seen in the past from coaching staffs to what we have now in Kalen DeBoer is, hey, we got 36 seconds left. We can score easily in a game that we already feel like we've got in hand. Let's go put some points on the board.
Certainly good to see that for the Crimson Tide as Alabama, again, built up that lead to 21-3. And then something we were all waiting for, leading into the fourth quarter, jump around. We got to see that. And not only did the Wisconsin student section, a little late arriving, we heard that was kind of a tradition for them as well, but they stuck through that and they made that a really fun atmosphere.
Well, I tell you, walking into the stadium, you can tell why they were some late arrivals from that student section. They were out in full force and they had their megaphones. They were screaming at all of us. We talked about it on Saturday. We went up there and played golf. A lot of us had, golf shirts and khaki pants and, I didn't feel like we looked like golfers, but we were getting heckled a lot of like, y'all going to a golf match or y'all going to a football game? And I was like, you're a grown man wearing overalls. Like, why are you talking trash to me? It's like
John Parker Wilson always does look like he's one of the golfers.
We all do. I mean, it's just like there's only so many things that you can wear. And we're not going to wear a jersey on Saturdays. That's just not our thing. It's just like
all of you should have worn your jerseys. That would have been pretty entertaining.
I don't know what else you do wear. It's just we don't have anything else in our repertoire. It's like they're just heckling us all the way up and down outside the stadium where a lot of these frat houses are, screaming at us, and it's and then you see the fans start to slowly trickle in after the game started, and I was kind of impressed. I was looking at this student section and the whole stadium, honestly, going in, to the end of the third quarter, we had the game in hand. This game was obviously over with. And then all of a sudden, jump around happens, and I think Wisconsin had the ball at the time, come out and run a couple plays. You look around and the entire stadium's cleared out immediately. It was like they all just jumped on out of the stadium. I mean, they were gone immediately. It was one of the most incredible disappearing acts that I've ever seen. It's like you have a requirement to stay until jump around, and then you can leave after that point in time. But it was a cool tradition. Good to see. Luckily for us, that environment, we kind of shut that down pretty early because they were pretty rowdy early on, especially Wisconsin was having some success. Alabama gets the ball, goes down there, misses the field goal on our first drive. They're up 3-0 with the ball back in hand. And, if they had that kind of energy for the entire game and some things go their way, you never know what's going to happen. But Alabama took care of business and shut that down pretty quick. But I guess they love it. I've seen some videos of it, but it was cool to be a part of it.
Yeah, in person was really good. Again, the Crimson Tide, not only the team, some staff members as well were jumping around the sidelines. Yeah. There may have been a member of the radio crew that was jumping around the booth the entire time. No names, but it was a lot of fun. It was a cool college football experience that we're certainly glad we got to experience this past Saturday. So the Crimson Tide get a great non-conference win against Wisconsin. We have seen some SEC games be played. Obviously, Alabama's first will be against Georgia coming up in just over a week, but it was a really interesting Saturday, Corey, of SEC football around the league.
Yeah, it was. And got in the car after the game was over with, headed to the airport to fly back to Birmingham, and caught the tail end of that LSU-South Carolina game. Crazy ending, and that was LSU was fortunate to come away with a win in that one. South Carolina had plenty of opportunities to finish that game off and start with probably one of the best starts they've had in program history in a long time. They're a good football team. LSU's, we've seen some ups and downs from that LSU team, but Brian Kelly, he's a great coach. They're going to figure out a way to win ball games. The one that was interesting to me was the Tennessee game against Chattanooga. And I didn't realize this. I was watching, was it Kent State? Yeah. That's what it was. Kent State, onside kick, you're up 30-6. And Tennessee's watching the film, obviously there was a huge gap there. But why are you kicking it? It's like, what are you doing here? And obviously they put it to him, scoring 63 points or 65 points in the first
apparently,
half.
I haven't read much about it, but apparently they did try to see if Kent State wanted to shorten the game
and
or
they
keep
said
the
no.
running clock in the second half, and they said no.
I just want to know if Josh Heupel's got a vendetta against whoever is on that staff at Kent State, because he absolutely put it to him in a way that you just don't, you always call the dogs off at some point. You start to run the football and try to get out of there as fast as you possibly can. Try to prevent some injuries. No. Hammer down, all gas, no brakes. He was not slowing down. He was putting as many points. Obviously scored 6 points in the second half, but that first half was absolutely incredible. And we've already talked about that Georgia and Kentucky game. That was a good one. UAB, the local team, giving some fits to Arkansas. Arkansas finds a way to win that ball game 37-27. But Trent Dilfer, after an upsetting loss last week, and then comes around and has a lead, I think, going into halftime against Arkansas. So there's been some good teams. I think Ole Miss is still that team that not a lot of people have talked about so far into the season. Got a ton of hype in the offseason of what this team is going to look like. I just don't know if we've seen a high-profile game from them yet to see what they're really about. But Jackson Dart seems to be playing well. They're putting points up on the board, and Auburn finds a way to win.
Quarterback change.
You got to, Hank Brown comes in for Peyton Thorne. That was a big change. No turnovers, 4 touchdowns in his first start for Auburn. It's and Jarquez Hunter is that running back that we've heard about for the last couple of years that has played well, and now he seems to be healthy and picking up where he left off. That unfortunate loss against Cal, which Cal is a good team. Everybody discounts them. They've changed. The league has changed. You're not sure what to make of Cal, but they're a good football team, and so Hugh Freeze was able to bounce back from that and get a win against those New Mexico teams. You got to be careful of
right.
from last year. A lot of those Auburn fans remember that all too well.
They certainly do. And then speaking of that, some really surprising scores. Toledo is off to a good start, 3-0, but they handed to Mississippi State in Starkville, 41-17. Then Vanderbilt, after getting off to such a great start, had that upset win against Virginia Tech. They go to a place where I've seen a lot of baseball games, former Turner Field, and fall to Georgia State.
Yeah, those are some unfortunate losses. I mean, I think a lot of this has to do with the parity was really great when you open up the transfer portal across all of college football, and then you start opening up the NIL situation as well, and it's almost like you reduce the parity again by giving the programs that have the most money. Mississippi State's one of those programs that they've lost their quarterback a couple years in a row. There's a lot of transfers, people going in different directions, trying to figure out what their identity is, where they fit in. I think that the top half of this SEC is going to be extremely tough. We saw Texas lose Quinn Ewers to injury this past weekend. I don't think he's out for very long, but that means that we got to see some of Arch Manning, who everybody's been waiting to see for the last couple of years. He finally gets his opportunity, shows his athletic ability, being able to run the football, and now I think he's going to get to start this weekend as well. A lot of things happening in the SEC. There's no telling what this is going to look like and how things are going to shake out. We're just getting into SEC play, and there's a lot of good football left to go. It's going to be fun to see what happens. Quinn Ewers he's got that Texas team rolling. They're a good football team. They're one of the best. We've seen them be explosive, and Arch Manning seems to be able to pick up the torch and run with it as well. He's a good football player. He's waiting, for his turn. This might be his opportunity to get a game. I imagine Quinn will come back into the starting role when he's healthy, but I know Texas fans are excited to at least get to see Arch Manning on the field. He's been the talk of college football for the last couple of years.
And then last team to talk about is the Florida Gators. Fell at home to Texas A&M, and now speaking of Mississippi State on tough times, losing to Toledo. How about the first game of the day on Saturday? Florida in Starkville against Mississippi State.
Yeah, that's going to be a real barn burner. You got a lot going on between both of these programs coming off of the losses that Billy Napier is a great coach. I'm not sure what's going on with that Florida program, why they're struggling so much. We've got a lot of former Alabama guys that are on that staff, and the fact that he's under, there were some rumors that there was a board members, board of trustees meeting on Sunday for Billy Napier about his job. We're not sure what's going to happen with him. I think it's going to be really tough for him to finish out this year, even though I think he's a great coach. I mean, listen, he took Louisiana Lafayette, who had never had a double-digit win season in program history. The guy knows how to coach football. It's just not adding up what's going on down there. I don't know if it's just the loss of these players, or the team has given up. I'm not sure. There's so many different dynamics in college football right now. Are the players already, they've got their mind on something else. They're no longer focused on football. They're looking to see what their next transfer is. Maybe they transfer midseason and just trying to get their money. Is this what happens when you have some adversity in a team? I think that's some of the things that, I've talked to former players that are in the mind, they're trying to help these programs out of, like, what did we do when Coach Saban first showed up, of shifting the mindset of being able to focus on the here and now. Each play has a life and history of its own. You got to be able to face adversity, not look at the scoreboard, all those things that were staples of Coach Saban's career. He's trying to implement it down there. It just doesn't seem to be sticking the same way that it did in Tuscaloosa. I hate it for him because he seems like he's a great guy, and I know he's a great coach. I know he's going to be successful. Maybe it is at his next stop, but we'll see what happens. It's going to be that game you mentioned is going to be one to definitely tune into on Saturday.
Yeah, that'll kick off the day. Some other notable matchups. It'll be Arkansas against Auburn, and
that's going to be a good game.
Yeah,
Auburn, Arkansas
both
is
teams
going to
need a win.
Yeah, they do need a win, and those are two good teams and two good coaching staffs. They definitely need a big game, a big day on Saturday. And it seems like that's been the case of that game for the last couple of years. Both of those programs are vying for all the wins that they could possibly get. I think Sam Pittman's a great coach as well.
Yeah, and then probably the headliner of the night will be number 6 Tennessee against number 15 Oklahoma. The homecoming for Josh Heupel. I believe College Game Day's there this week. That certainly will take a lot of eyeballs on ABC.
Yeah, there's definitely some storylines from that game. It's his first time. I think he said in his press conference today, first time he's ever stood on the opposing sideline in that stadium. Brent Venables seems to be changing the culture of that Oklahoma program. Now you're in the SEC. This is going to be a tough test because Tennessee is looking dominant as everybody expected them to be so far this season. I expect this one's going to be I don't know. Oklahoma is one that we don't know a ton about. We know Tennessee's going to put up a lot of points. Let's see if Brent Venable and his defense, that he had such good defenses at Clemson, can stop this Tennessee offense.
The NASCAR playoffs are heading to the high banks of Talladega for what is to be a 3-race weekend for the record books. You're not going to want to miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime experience. Get your tickets now for the Talladega Playoffs event weekend, October 4th through the 6th at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com. Well, last night's Crimson Tide Rewind started our week of programming here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and even though there is an open date, no game coming up on Saturday, it is a busy week here on the network. Let's take a look at our upcoming schedule. Well, tomorrow night we will still have Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa, and it's going to be a kind of basketball edition as we're getting closer, less than 50 days away for tip-off for Alabama men's and women's basketball. So Nate Oates will be alongside Latrell Reitzel Jr., and then from the women's basketball side, Kelly Curry along with Essence Cody, in addition to Coach DeBoer calling in to talk about Crimson Tide football. So make sure you join Chris Stewart coming up for a new edition of Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show tomorrow at 6 from Baumhauer's here in Tuscaloosa. Coming up on Thursday, we'll have another edition of Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR. And speaking of NASCAR, a little bit of a NASCAR flavor to that show with Larry McReynolds, a huge Alabama fan, former crew chief in NASCAR and a longtime NASCAR broadcaster. He'll be along to give not only thoughts on Alabama football, but the NASCAR season as well as we get into the playoffs. Then we'll have Tide TV This Week, a new edition of that coming up on Friday. Before you know it, it'll be time to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs and everything coming up for Alabama's 4th week of the season. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms below, especially keep subscribing on YouTube. Instagram, TikTok has really blown up in the last few weeks as well, so make sure you follow us at UACTSN for the latest on Alabama athletics. As we close out the show, we wanted to close out with a really fun moment from this past Saturday at Camp Randall Stadium. Obviously, Chris Stewart and Kalen DeBoer, as always, tape the coaches' show right after the ball game is over, and usually on the road, as long as the other team has a rest of the field, they're able to do that in the end zone of the opposing stadium, and they were going through their show, having a good time, when a Heisman Trophy winner happened to drop by. Let's take a look at a really fun moment from the Kalen DeBoer Show that you can always catch in our TV affiliates across the state, plus on demand on RolledTide.com and the Alabama Athletics YouTube channel as well. Here's Chris Stewart, Kalen DeBoer, and a special guest to close out Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Big sequence at the end of the first half, but you get the stop, They miss a field
Roll Tide,
goal.
baby. Let's go.
Roll Tide.
Let's go. Good job, Coach. Let's go.
If it's a Heisman Trophy winner, they can make cameos on the
Yeah,
taping
a
for the show.
little interview bomb on Coach real quick.
That's right. Always
man.
good.
Anytime.
But Mark Ingram, it's good to have the guy from Fox. He's got a day job now, but jumping in with us here, that's pretty exciting too, Coach.
I love it. He came and did a great job speaking with us, and came and saw us with our team meeting last night. Special player, obviously. I know the fans love him to death, and I'm starting to get to know him pretty well, and it's been a lot of fun to be around.
Understandably so. We were talking about the touchdown, but we're going to just show it to you as we take a look at our first half highlights.